Today, I want to talk a little bit about this woke dilemma, about how awareness in our society has become a weapon. Up until this point in our series, we have discussed how well crafted propaganda and deceptive messaging, fueled with emerging technologies and social media, have become a tool. They're manipulating our obedience. And there is a very powerful attempt by this billionaire class and politicians. It's a blatant abuse of power that is blurring the lines between truth and the story they want you to believe. And these lies are becoming an integral part of our society and are basically fracturing our communities and the trust in the institutions that so many of us rely upon. My name is Michael, and welcome to the Open Road Ministry. Today, it's a little bit different because I've been thinking about this all day, so I want to redirect our conversation on unveiling the lies a bit and talk about this woke dilemma. Because this is how awareness is being weaponized. And warning, this topic is controversial and very triggering to some. You see, the weaponization of truth is more than a political tool, it is a moral concern. Because what is happening here goes much deeper than just rhetoric. And we're going to focus today on this word woke. It originated in the African American vernacular English and is historically defined as to be awake to social injustice and the systematic oppression, especially when it comes, or especially regarding race. It became a call for awareness and justice within the Black communities, and it was meant to serve as a survival tool. It represented being aware, it represented being alert, and it represented being knowledgeable that the systems, or knowledgeable of the systems that are working against you. And it was also a warning not to sleep on injustice. It was rooted in awareness of racism. It was rooted in the awareness of oppression and inequality. And it was rooted in awareness to police violence and systematic injustice, especially through the judicial system. And it first made its appearance in print back as early as the 1940s. But it really didn't gain traction, didn't become mainstream until the Black Lives Matter movement. It was, to be woke was to be awake to the world's realities and willing to do something about it. It is what rallied the people and brought them to the streets when enough death finally triggered their demand for justice, accountability. It was never about superiority, but it was about survival and eventually about solidarity. It was a blanket term for compassion. It was a blanket term for progress and equality and basic decency. And examples of this were calls for awareness regarding police brutality, understanding systemic racism that was rooted within our country, and supporting marginalized communities in their struggles against such crimes, and challenging the inherent or structural bias that are embedded within our social structures. But sometime around 2016, and it really escalated about 2020, the word became weaponized, rebranded, hijacked, if you will, and it was stripped of its original roots. This rebranding was very intentional, and they utilized the technologies that were there, especially social media. It was strategic messaging. It was a strategic messaging campaign, basically used to shut down uncomfortable conversations, and create scapegoats for racially biased cultural change. And the word woke, it was co-opted and weaponized by conservative political leaders and commentators. It was meant to discredit the movements that were focused on racial justice. It was meant to discredit the movements that were focused on gender equality and social inclusion. And now the word woke is used to unify oppression to progressive values under a single term, creating an emotional trigger word, if you will, one that could be used to label people or ideas without needing to argue with any substance. Woke is used as a derogatory term to describe any policy or belief perceived as progressive, or any education about systemic oppression, or any language of inclusivity. Anything involving equality or social justice, especially if it relates to, say, DEI, for instance. Even DEI was weaponized. I mean, if it relates to DEI efforts or anti-racial teachings, it's suddenly woke. Woke has been turned into a white expression of racism, a dog whistle, if you will, a way to rally ideological support against the vague enemy, often without needing to explain or define that enemy, which is often anyone who is different, looks different, sounds different, politically, socially, or racially. And now in 2025, the word woke is a tool used for misinformation. And we are witnessing its continued rebranding. A word that was once rooted in justice now fuels division, sows confusion, and promotes the 4 pillars of misinformation. This is the Woke Dilemma. The Woke Dilemma is a classic textbook case of the 4 pillars of misinformation, which are deception, disinformation, misinformation, and propaganda. And together they are meant to trigger an emotional response without needing to explain the argument or create. And it's meant to create division. And it's also meant as a mechanism for control. It starts with deception. The word woke is misrepresented. What once meant awareness now is cast as extremism. Then disinformation takes hold, and people are told woke equates to child grooming, anti-Christian values, or the collapse of our civilization. Misinformation follows that as false definitions are repeated online over and over and over again, from social media accounts to pulpits in the classroom, often by those who never really understood the term woke to begin with. Then propaganda sets in with anti-woke messaging that is weaponized to stir fear and secure power and silence dissent. Yes, woke was hijacked, stripped from its cultural and historical roots, and now is used by the media and politicians to mock progressive causes. It was redefined as an insult to shut down meaningful dialogue, and is now deeply rooted in racist and fascist ideologies. Woke is now a propaganda tool and a perfect example of toxic rebranding in action. Again, it started with deception, intentionally misrepresenting the term to distract from the real societal issues such as systemic racism, poverty, and inequality. Then disinformation, or the lies that are generated linking wokeness to extremism and pedophilia and the national collapse. Everything we know is going to die. This is a typical fascist talking point, but we saw this back in the 1930s. When people catch on to the fancy slogans and misinformation occurs. They repeat the false claims about what it means to be woke without understanding the word's origins or without understanding the truth behind its rebranding. It is used as a familiar slur against anyone whom they do not agree with. And then propaganda sets in as mainstream and alternative media, social media, and political figures use anti-woke messaging to generate fear, outrage, and conformity. Wokeness is referred to any ideology that is not a conservative value. Woke has become a general term that does not require thought or discussion and starts to scapegoat others, especially those with progressive ideas. Basically, woke is a general placeholder for undefined conservative anxiety and distraction from real policy discussions, and it conceals abuses of power. And it's used as a psychological wedge designed to divide communities along moral lines, weaponizing awareness and pushing or punishing empathy. And when compassion is mocked and justice is demonized, we have left the path of truth and we're basically embracing fascist ideologies. Woke is now used as an insult. It's the new N-word. Let's just be real. And those who use it in this manner ignore real cruelty and injustice in leadership. They feel entitled, superior, and do not care about the suffering of others. It becomes a term they use along a party line, one meant to control thought, rooted in fear and cruelty. And people use the term woke against groups, individuals, as well as their own family members. Without it, they don't even understand what harm it presents. So we have to ask ourselves now if being aware to injustice is wrong. What does it say about us as a people? If kindness is mocked, what does it say about our own morality? And if truth is ridiculed, what does it say about the future that we are building not only for ourselves, but for our children, for our families? So before you use that word woke, ask yourself what it means to you. What does woke mean to you? Are you empathetic, or are you repeating talking points from a group? Do you really understand the word you adopted and how it's being used to control your actions as the powerful take control of your freedoms? I mean, woke was once rooted in compassion and awareness, but is hijacked and stripped of its roots purposely. And now it reflects hate, racism, and a lack of compassion and a desire for cruelty. It challenges our comfort and helps promote the dehumanizing of others. It's about control. It's about power, and it's about fascism. My name is Reverend Michael, and this is the Open Road Ministry. I know this one was tough, but the message is, if it resonated, please, I hope it earned your subscription and that you would hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and share this with friends so we can spread this ministry.